Giuliani with America's Mayor Live. And tonight we are going to spend some time covering the protest, covering the trial, and taking a good look at the mental state of our president. That'll take a very brief little, not much. But we're going to begin because today is the National Day of Prayer. So I should say that probably my favorite saint is St. Augustine. Largely because he was a sinner who repented and became a father of the church, a one of the great four or five theologians of Christianity, and a bishop, and a has written probably one of the most interesting books ever written, the Confessions of. I guess when originally written, they were Confessions of Augustine, but now they're the Confessions of Saint Augustine. That was only done, in 528. It's been read since then. So let's begin with his favorite prayer on the day of prayer. Act in me, O Holy Spirit, that my work too may be holy. Draw my heart, O Holy Spirit, that I love but what is holy. Strengthen me, O Holy Spirit, to defend all that is holy. Guard me, then, O Holy Spirit, that I always may be holy. Now, what that means is to be a good person. And he struggled with that, had a very wild use, back and forth, young adult, and then became one of the real creators of the beliefs that we have as Christians, meaning the explanation of those beliefs. You probably don't even realize how much he contributed to the theology of Christianity, whether that's Catholicism or the Protestant religion, even in the Orthodox faith, he's very revered. Remember, the Orthodox faith didn't break from the Roman Catholic faith until 1,000 years AD. So Augustine goes back to 500 AD. So it's wonderful that we have a day of prayer, because we sure need it. The world is at war in two major ones, right? Either one of which could break out into a much wider war because it involves so many of the major antagonists in the world. America is going through a very, very difficult inflation that's making it very, very hard for people to afford the things that they're used to. And more than that, of course, we're going through an invasion, the consequences of which we still, the consequences of which we're going to feel for 20 years. We're only beginning to feel them now. The most immediate two are record deaths from fentanyl in numbers that are astronomical. The tragedy of that is one of the things of the many that Donald Trump had pretty much got on the right track was fentanyl, as well as immigration. I'll just give you a number, right? The last year that Trump was president, 420,000 people were stopped at the border, interrogated, truly vetted. Remember, the vetting procedure was criticized. I thought it was a really good one because I helped create it. And the whole purpose of it was if you came from a country that was suspected of having terrorists, we ask you a lot more questions. That makes sense, doesn't it? They call that racism. I call that protecting all your people, black, white, brown, of all different kinds, because terrorists don't make much of a distinction in who they kill. So Trump got it down to about 420,000, maybe 430. Every indication it was going even lower the year after, because that was really the first full year of stay in Mexico, which is probably responsible for about 60% of that reduction. It also was responsible for a massive reduction in fentanyl. Now, why is that? Because stay in Mexico kept them on their side of the border getting checked out before they came here, which gave us a lot more time to figure out who's the one sort of bringing in drugs and who aren't. And I know quite a bit about it. And one of these nights we'll have Andrew on because that's one of the things he worked on in the White House and was very proud of. And of course, so was the president. Well, now Biden came in and right at the beginning, he changed immigration completely. violated the law, opened the border, did away with stay in Mexico, which was completely asinine. And basically, I don't even think they tried to stop fentanyl from coming in. So last year, the number of people that where Trump was 420,000 with 3.5 million. That's just 1 year. Those are the ones we stop and talk to very briefly. The interrogation with the Chinese, which used to take almost half a day, is now 4 questions. They asked him 4 questions. You might as well not ask any. I mean, that's the country that would be most likely to send spies here, right? To do all kinds of damage of all, whatever. I mean, if you were China, you'd be out of your mind not to send people here. And we asked them 4 questions. So and we don't do much better with all the other countries either. Then you've got to realize that those are the 340,000 we got to touch for a minute or two, and then let them in with paroles of 4 or 5 years. Then there's the whole group we got to see, but didn't get to touch. That was another probably 4, 5, 600,000 last year. We don't know who they are. We just got a little peek at. And then there are the people we never saw because they came across the border at a place where we didn't have anyone, which is much easier to do when you have 3.5 million people coming in than just 400,000. So anybody could estimate anything, and as long as you didn't go above like 15, 16 million, you'd probably be in the ballpark. Could be as low as, I mean, the lowest it is about 10 million, and the highest it is about 20 million. And and when they say, well, are they all criminals? No. Are they all very nice, honest, legitimate people that just want to work? Absolutely not. Are they pretty much like the illegal immigrants we've been getting for the last 30, 40, 50 years, up and down, up and down? Completely different. Those people were vetted. Those people were checked out. Only a small percentage of them got through without being seen. We knew a lot more about them. And they had their share of criminals, but they also had their share of people who wanted to work. And they just didn't want to wait online. I mean, that's illegal. That's wrong. The point that I'm making is this is a much more dangerous group. And we can't even really evaluate the full nature of the danger because we don't know who they are. So that is the contribution of Joseph Robinette, isn't it? Robinette Biden. I wonder if he can spell that middle name.
Robinette.
I bet when he was a kid, he used to get it wrong. He was left back in the 3rd grade. I knew him for 40 years, and I'm going to bore you again and tell you he's the dumbest man I ever met. That's before he became demented. I mean, he was stupid before he was demented. That's quite a combination, right? So they have thrown the protesters out of Colombia. It took only 10 days of basically closing down the school. So all those people that pay $1 million a year for tuition there, they couldn't end the semester because the people who support a terrorist group decided to take over the campus. The president would not call the police in. And for some reason, Mayor Adams thinks he could, that in law enforcement, he was a cop, but that law enforcement is done only by invitation. So if the college president doesn't invite you in, even though they're ripping things up and there are a bunch of illegal immigrants there and they're talking about death to America and they are prime suspects for being for being aiders and abettors of Hamas, you don't go in. That's totally absurd. A college campus is not a medieval cloister. Do you know when sanctuary left the law? Oh, around 1600, including for churches. So if you're running away, well, if you're running away from Bragg, you can go anywhere. But if you're running away from me, don't go into church because I'll come in the church and get you. And the church can tell me all they want that you can't get in here, and they're just wrong. we haven't had the sanctuary laws in America or England for about 500 years. And he sat there and he did what his mentor did, David Dinkins, who he didn't like when he was mayor. He actually supported me, Adams did. He had what was known as a cooling off period. Their theory is that if people start protesting and there's a risk they're going to get, violent or get out of control, and they do a few things illegal and stuff like that, you just let them get away with it and give them a cooling off period. My theory was stop it before it becomes anything. First one that does something illegal, arrest him. The second one, arrest him. The third one, arrest him. The fourth one, arrest him. You don't have to get to 5 usually. That's why I never had a riot, ever. They have them all the time. So they let that thing go on for days and days and days, which helped to spark other places doing it. NYU wasn't going to let Columbia get away with attacking America. They hate America as much as Columbia. So all those stupid idiot students and even dumber professors decided they would protest. And then the people at CUNY, and that one got a little more violent. Now we even have them at Fordham, which used to be a Catholic school run by the Jesuits. My God, when I was in school, the Jesuits would have ended up by just beating the crap out of them. I know you can't do that. No, you can't do that anymore.
Lombardi wouldn't put up with it. Vince Lombardi.
Lombardi would have beaten the crap out of him all by himself. He'd been taking the what was it called? The line of granite or
the block? Yeah,
the block of granite.
The lineman at was it West Point or was it Fordham?
That was at Fordham.
The Fordham offensive line had a really, and he was part of it.
I think he was one of it.
The 4 blocks of granite.
Yeah. And Lombardi, I went to church every day. I went to mass and communion every day.
7 blocks of
granite. I
granite.
could see him letting him do that at Fordham while he was there.
Oh my goodness, never.
Yeah. Well, it's all over the country, right, Ted? I mean, it isn't just New York. It's on the West Coast. UCLA, USC. UCLA, I think, has an official name for it. Let me see. I wrote it down here. Oh, they're the Palestine Solidarity Encampment.
That's right. Well,
it's no longer UCLA. It's PSE now.
But that's the same language they've been using at all the universities, and that's important, right? The uniformity.
I thought it was a different name at Columbia.
No, the Gaza Solidarity Encampment. Yeah. But it's important to point out the similarity in language.
It's good because that's where we should send them. They can by putting those things up, they give us an indication of where the military transport should take them. Trump becomes president. We can do it easily. Just go in, take them, put them on a military transport.
Well, send them to Gaza. Well, if you're here on a visa, right, you should be immediately expel the ones on a visa, or expel the students who are a part of this, causing problems. Columbia University, Yale, NYU, the Midwest, University of Minnesota, Texas.
Wisconsin had a big problem today too.
Georgia, Wisconsin, Indiana, all across the country.
University of Mississippi had a big thing today.
But how?
You know what they said?
They shut that.
Won't be none of that here.
Shut that down pretty quickly.
They had a big group of students in the middle of I guess their whatever it is, their quadrangle or
a quad or something.
They said,
sure, yeah.
Yeah, try it.
Yeah. Well, we saw it in North Carolina.
You know what we'll do with your Palestinian flag?
Yeah. It didn't last. I mean, we saw in North Carolina, right? Those fraternity, those guys protected the American flag, and now they're getting all sorts.
Can I give a little credit to my favorite police department?
Yeah.
Can we show Deputy Commissioner of Operation Kaz Daughtry and Deputy Commissioner of Public Information Tariq Shepard as they put the flag up at CUNY at a time in which there was some degree of violence going on. So this was not. I mean, this wasn't the safest thing in the world to do, but these are not older, but they're senior police officers, but extremely patriotic men. I recommended that the mayor give them a medal at City Hall. I would do that. I'd have a ceremony for them, give them a medal. There you go. They pulled down the terrorist flag. You see, this idea that you make a distinction between Palestinians and Hamas, it doesn't really mean very much for our safety and security. Palestinians 85% to 90% hate Americans. About 80% hate Israelis. They hate Americans more than they hate Israelis. They're trained from the time they go to school that it's perfectly okay to kill us because we're Satan. Little Satan, big Satan. We're big Satan. Our half-wit president wants to bring them in to the United States because he wants to just get more of us killed, I guess. Were they able to see it?
Yeah,
I saw a mixed up group of things.
Yeah, you saw the mixed up part. They're going to see the clean version right now. And this happened, of course. This was 2 nights ago. So we're playing it now for everybody to hear.
Even like 2 of those guys are like in the top 5 in the leadership. It would be like the number 3 general of the army. These are extremely high-ranking police officers. Probably between them, they have about 60 years on the job.
All right, and we're back.
Just want people around the country to know that although they hear a lot of bad things about New York, we do love America. Look how we got through 9/11, huh? When you push us, we got a few more dopes than you do, but we got a lot of great people. The mayor is one of those. The mayor wrote a letter today that actually I partially agree with, which is very rare that I agree with Adams, but I partially agree with. He said that this was largely organized by outside agitators. And probably in some of these campuses, they might actually turn out to have been more outside agitators than students doing the pro-Palestinian, pro-Hamas protesting. That's absolutely true. And that also explains why it's going on nationally now. This has become, and if we don't nip it in the bud, this is going to become another, George Floyd protest per city per day. And they'll pick the cities where George Soros has put his crooked DAs, and they'll all be let out. I mean, so far, I don't think anyone here has been in prison. I don't think so. Some of them have gotten really to come back and do it a second time. So basically, the arrest was just an interruption in their protesting schedule, because God forbid Bragg should actually put him in jail. He's too busy trying to go after Trump for Trump's bookkeeper making a false entry in his book, in the books and records of his company, that's barred by the statute of limitations. They're very dangerous. Bookkeeper and Trump are very dangerous. You've got to get them, Bragg. Well, you don't get them, and who knows? Even more people may get killed in New York. I mean, but did you ever realize, Bragg, that every bit of resource that you use for that, you're taking it away from the record number of larcenies and assaults that are going on in New York right now? You if you devote more time to that, you might actually protect people. Well, you're spending a fortune on that, Chuck. The other thing that I find really amazing about Bragg, and I want you to watch this because these people really are cowards. He's not trying the case. What's he doing sitting there? What is he, one of the people that, when I tried cases for a living, there used to be a group that were like retired, mostly men, but a couple of women, that would show up every day and watch the interesting trials. So they would come to my trials a lot, and I got to know them really well. And then when I was U.S. attorney, I actually used to ask them for advice about how my assistants were doing. And I became really friendly with them. So now, what is he, one of those? He hangs around. He's the district attorney. This is the most important case he has. Have you seen him get up in court? Did he give the opening statement? No. Did he examine a witness? No. You think he is? No. You think he's a lawyer? No. Not really. He's afraid. About 80% of the lawyers are afraid to go to court, maybe 90. I've actually seen lawyers first time in court faint. So Bragg is just a political Marxist showpiece in the courtroom, and somebody else is trying the case. Same thing with Fannie Ho. She's not going to try that case. I mean, she couldn't get through the first day probably and keep her concentration going.
Mayor, is it normal in the state case to have? Apparently, they have federal prosecutors in the room. What's going on with
federal
that?
prosecutor? What he did was Biden gave him one. This Colangelo was a federal prosecutor who had been working on some of the other cases persecuting Trump. I don't know actually how good he is or isn't, but he obviously at least he can stand up in court and talk. And they just switched him to the DA's office because really this is Biden's case. I mean, you're really stupid if you don't realize that all this is coordinated out of the White House. That's why Fannie Ho's lover went to the White House twice. What's he going to the White House for? Go to seeking advice for him on nuclear science or something? I mean, this guy questioned me for 5 hours, and I really was going to ask to see his law degree. Actually, I was going to ask to see his high school graduation. I mean, he really is. He really is. I didn't know then that I didn't know they were going on vacations with our minds, but he was brought in to handle the case, and he had never tried a case before. So he wasn't brought in to handle the case. He was brought in to be the go-between with the White House. And he was her lover, so she could trust him. And every time he went to the White House, the jerk, he billed 24 hours. I don't know what he was doing from 2 a.m. and at the White House until 8 a.m. Who knows? They did have that locker with the stuff in it. It might be more fun in the White House for these people than you think.
All that corruption for cruise trips to the Caribbean.
So if you look at every single one of the prosecutors they have in these Trump cases is a corrupt individual, and they're all Democrats, and they're all not just Democrats. They're like wild and crazy Democrats.
Yeah.
Smith's qualifications is that he framed the governor of Virginia. Yeah. He tried him.
Ruined his career.
And then the case got reversed by the Supreme Court 9-0 because of his misconduct.
But the man doesn't get his career back. He was talked about as an early presidential frontrunner.
But that's why the Attorney General picked him, because he's crooked.
Yeah.
I mean, you read the Supreme Court opinion, and if you were an honest Attorney General, you would not select him for a sensitive case. This would be exactly the opposite of a guy that you would select for a sensitive case, because he has the background of having framed an innocent person. Supreme Court reversed McDonald's conviction 9-0, mostly because of Smith's misconduct. That was the main reason for it. And he's trying the former president of the United States. But we'll take a brief recess, court adjourned for 5 minutes or 2 minutes or whatever.
We're having the biggest sale ever on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save 60% on our Goose Down comforters, the best comforters ever. They go perfectly with our MyPillow bed sheets and duvet covers. Save 25% on our brand new kitchen towels. They're made with the same technology as our famous My Towels. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. Our seasonal flannel sheets are finally in. You save up to 50%, and they sell out fast every year, so order now. They're truly the best flannel sheets you'll ever sleep on. Or save up to 80% on all our clearance items. And this is where it gets even better. For a limited time, your entire order ships absolutely free. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use that promo code to get deep discounts on all MyPillow products. And for a limited time, your order ships absolutely free.
Yeah, okay. Now we're back.
There's a little breeze now.
And we're back. Thanks for joining us
live. Thank you for coming back. And let's give you some news that you're not going to get because they censor it. That'd be good. That'd be good to do. So Biden is on a roll right now. In the last 2 days, first of all, he had his press conference today. That is after 2 weeks of protests all over the country, and he has nothing to say about it. Today, he had nothing to say about it. He basically said, peaceful protesting is good. Violent protesting is bad. But he didn't say we do anything about the violent protesting. And then he was asked a question. And do you have that tape? Because I really think you don't have to really listen to the press conference. I just gave you the press conference. It wasn't much longer than that. But then he gets asked a question. Now, we have
Chew it up. It's going to take
he has a country that he's the president of, where there are protests, some of them morphing into mini riots at this point, on the verge of really blowing up. And he doesn't say anything about that. And then he gets asked a question. And if I'm not mistaken, he kind of freezes up. And then he walks out. I mean, it really.
We'll have it up in a second.
I mean, most of the nursing homes I go to, I can have a more intelligent conversation with the people that are there. Oh, I mean, without any doubt. I mean, this guy is completely, to not be able to answer a question at a time like this, when this country is under such internal and external stress, is an admission that you shouldn't be in that office. So do you have that to show them?
Yeah,
because
we're going to get in a second.
So the way he walks, I mean, he walks like his last step.
Yeah, it's going to take another second.
Okay.
But we're queuing it up right now. It's loading. It just sometimes takes a couple minutes
What
to do that.
About when the question is asked and he's like, and then he walks out, doesn't say anything. And the press should be insulted, but he can do anything to them. It's really, it almost doesn't matter. Do we have it?
All right, we're going to play it right now.
He's doing this too. Have you understand it?
Yeah.
The second is the rule of law.
It was going to take too long.
Both must be upheld. We are not an authoritarian nation where we silence people or squash dissent. Anything goes. It needs to be done without violence, without destruction, without hate, and within the law. You know, make no mistake, as president, I will always defend freedom.
The protest forced you to reconsider any of the policies with regard to the region?
No. Thank you.
Mr. President, do you think the national
No. There's one answer. No.
No.
Mr. President, do you agree?
That's really odd. I mean, obviously there are going to be questions about something like what's going on in this country, and you just walk out. So I don't know if it was today or yesterday. The Department of Education has taken Title IX and amended it to protect transgender athletes and transgender access to bathrooms. What that means is that the federal government is trying to sort of dictate to those states that have created protections so that men and boys don't walk into girls' bathrooms or end up in their locker rooms if they're not inclined to, like perversion, like Biden does. And he's trying to overrule it by the Department of Education. Now, I'm not sure the Department of Education has the authority to do it, but he's trying. And nobody even writes about it. I mean, this is ridiculous. Nor does anybody ask the question, is there a connection between a guy who writes a perverted regulation like that boys can go into girls' bathrooms and can be on girls' teams, and the fact that he has said at a time when he was off in some other world that he very much enjoyed children touching the hair on his legs. Yeah, and he liked putting them in his lap, he said. And I can show you again, if you want, those completely creepy pictures of him annoying little girls by touching them. and their parents, just so excited that they're with the president, they don't pay much attention, but the little girls have terrible expressions on their face. Or I can share with you his son's unbelievably perverted, well, pictures, whatever you want to call it, and his telling his father that he was a danger to Joe's grandchildren, which Joe did nothing about, because he doesn't really give a damn about his grandchildren. He just gives a damn about not having political problems. So does that personal proclivity lead him to allow the Department of Education to do this? I don't know. Certainly a worthy question. You think they're ever going to ask that? I mean, this is a horrible thing the Department of Education is doing, intervening and saying that basically it's illegal if you don't let a boy who says I'm a girl right now into the girls' room, or how about that? How about that? I'm not sure what state it was in, but the kid who started the male said he was a girl, and he started throwing the shot put, and beat and set all the records. And he when he was doing it with boys, he couldn't throw the shot put 3 feet. I mean, it's terrible. But we're entitled to know, does this come about because he's a pervert? He certainly gives enough indications of it. I can't prove it, but I have legitimate basis on which to ask the question. I mean, when you watch him and you listen to him, he certainly acts very suspicious in terms of little children, and I sure as heck wouldn't have near my granddaughter. How about not even the same state if I could help it. He also is relaxing. I don't know exactly how, because I haven't been able to get the rules that they're putting up, but they're relaxing the rules on marijuana. This is a great time to do that, just at a time in which over the last 2 years, studies have come out showing that marijuana, cannabis, is much more damaging than we ever thought to the brain, and at a very early stage. And that all of the nonsense we were fed that, it's just like smoking, it's just like drinking, it's worse. And it does significant damage to the brain and has a connection to serious mental illnesses. So this whole experiment in like spreading it all around in New York, Adams wants to build New York City on the income from cannabis and gambling. That's because he doesn't have any common sense. But they're going to make it easier for people to get more marijuana. So I guess they can crash into each other in their cars more, like they do in Oregon. Or their brains, I mean, if the brains of a lot of these Americans deteriorate much more, there can be much left. So I don't think marijuana spreading it right now is a particularly good idea. Is there anything good that Joe wants to do? Well, he doesn't, and Blinken is now telling Bibi that we're not going to support his going into Rafah unless Bibi can guarantee that he won't kill any civilians. How the hell is he going to do that when Hamas puts the civilians in front puts the civilians in front of them to get killed? Well, I mean, and exactly what their motives are there to try to preserve Hamas, I really don't know. I think it's to ingratiate themselves to Iran. Remember, Hamas has become really a puppet of Iran, and both Biden and Obama are in love with Iran because they seem to have a softness for Islamic terrorism. They wouldn't give them all that much money if they didn't have a softness for it. So you're not going to read about that anywhere, I don't think. You're not going to read about the fact that that Biden. Well, you will. I think you'll read about this, but in some kind of a muted way, that he wants to let Palestinians come in as refugees. Now, that's really brilliant because they want to kill us. They are taught to kill us at a young age. Now, I'm sure not all of them want to kill us, and I'm sure some of them overcome that brainwashing and But when we have a lot of other people that want to come in that aren't taught at 2 years old to kill us, what do we want to take them for? Or did it ever occur to those two traitors that the king of Jordan won't let them in,
Yeah.
and his wife is Palestinian? That must be a hell of a conversation in his house, huh? The wife is quite beautiful, and he doesn't. It's like a sort of a disparity there. If you have, gee, don't get angry at me, King, but in terms of looks, you really. But in any event,
Egypt.
She obviously doesn't have much influence on you. You won't let any of her people in.
That's right. Jordan is married to a
Half Palestinian.
Half Palestinian.
Won't let him in at all. He
won't let one Palestinian in.
He goes bonkers if you even suggest it. He's right, because because they'll end up causing terrorism like they did in Lebanon. Now, what about Egypt? Sisi won't let him in, and if a couple of them should get over the border, he'll probably kill them, because they derive from the Muslim Brotherhood. The Muslim Brotherhood is who he had to displace to take Egypt back, and the Muslim Brotherhood probably every day in every way is trying to figure out how to assassinate Sisi. And just what he needs is, these Palestinians to come in. So you cannot, if you are a Palestinian, I didn't say Hamas, I said Palestinian. You can't get into Jordan, Egypt. They don't really want you in Iran either. I noticed that when they had talks, Iran met with them in Qatar.
You notice that?
I don't think the Iranians want them there.
No. They're tools. And the Palestinian people, if anything, are suffering at the hands of the Iranians. Right. They're being used.
Well, one of my callers today made a very good point. There really isn't a Palestinian people. There's no such thing as a Palestinian people. They were, even Arafat, and being a smartass, said, I created the Palestinian people. I'm really Egyptian. Palestine was a place, not a nationality. There's no Egyptians are a nationality. Syrians are a nationality. Jordanians are a nationality. Palestinians aren't a nationality. They are Syrians. They're Jordanians.
Syrian. Yeah, that's right.
Were thrown out.
Well,
organized themselves. They organized themselves in that little area that used to be called Palestine, and that's how they adopted the name. And then Arafat sort of organized him into something so that he could extort money from people and kill a lot of Americans.
And what did you do to Yasser Arafat when he wanted to watch a concert at, was that Lincoln Center?
I threw him out.
When you were mayor?
I don't like watching concerts with killers. I'm just not comfortable. I can't concentrate on the music if there's a guy there that I know killed 27 Americans. But I had investigated Arafat, and I had the evidence that he convicted 27 Americans. I wanted to.
And did you hear from Bill Clinton after that?
Bill Clinton, the New York Times, and New York Times said
they were offended.
Ruined. I think I was going to cause a war by doing that, and it turns out that I was right and they were wrong, because Clinton eventually gave Arafat everything he wanted, and Arafat told him, "I don't want peace. I want money."
Yeah.
It's kind of like
good for business.
Zelensky's in heaven right now.
Oh gosh, 65 billion.
Well, he's got almost 200 billion, and we don't even account for it. And it's the crooked or second most crooked country in the world. His mentor was the chief money launderer in Ukraine and a member of Ukrainian organized crime, and we make him into like a god. And we think we're helping the people of Ukraine by giving money that has to go through a funnel of organized criminals. And all it's doing is getting them killed.
Yeah.
But Biden knows that better than anybody. He made millions there. So we will take a break, and we will be right back.
Is something that you can plug into your television, and now you can use your television as a social television type experience. So in the Portal universe, you can watch your favorite content creators' videos, live streams, music. We also have TV subscriptions as well.
TV subscriptions.
So you can also
regular channels, all the sports.
Right. You can actually cut your cable from your cable subscription and get QUX TV on our QX TV boxes. And you can pay half the price that you're currently paying for your cable television subscription. And you can get all the best premium TV channels and more. I mean, it's really, there's so much on there, Rudy. I mean, you've seen it.
No, I've seen it and I use it. And it's I mean, it's just exactly the same except for half the price. Plus, nobody is finding out what I'm watching. And that's not being reported to anybody.
Right. So you have absolute privacy using this device, which you don't have on other devices out there currently on the market.
This is absolutely great. QUX.TV is how you can find out about it. QUX.TV.
Use promo code Rudy to receive $30 off.
And we're back.
Oh, and we got it right. Elaine, how are you? This is Elaine Beck. How are you?
Oh, wonderful.
It's very nice to have you. It's very nice to have you on.
I've been watching you for years.
So tell us, you have a podcast.
Yes, I do.
And tell us what the name of it is.
The name of it is It's Not About Us.
Okay, and what do you do with it?
Obviously, what it's about is our Lord and Savior and God.
Oh, well, you couldn't have one about a better subject.
That's right. Because, what he tells us to do is to focus on him in everything. And I really enjoyed being here tonight and getting to listen to you speak in person and hear your heart and see your passion.
Well, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
It's one thing to watch a person on TV, but when you're right there, you can feel the passion of somebody. And I'm a very passionate person about God and my country. And God gave me a vision 5 years ago. And this is what started all of this, right before my husband died. And so I am just so honored to be here tonight and get to listen to what you're saying, because I live in Arizona, so I can talk about the border for sure.
Yeah.
And I deal with both sides of people. Their side that is what they hear and believe that could be very untrue, because we all know the brainwashing doesn't just happen in other countries. It happens right here in our own towns and our own cities.
Oh, darn right it does.
I love the fact that I've said for years now, the media is what controls this country. President Trump had it right when he said fake news. And the reason they've done that is they took time, and over years, they took over all the local TV stations. So if Joe Blow and his wife, Susie, and their 3 kids watch the local news every night, it's going to be ABC, CBS, NBC, CNBC. It's going to be all these stations that are the fake. They're building a story inside of all these people's heads that President Trump is worthless and lazy and stupid, and he's cheating you and he's doing this and that.
He's a monster of some kind. I mean, it's so totally ridiculous. Meanwhile, we've got a president that really is a monster.
Right, absolutely. He's doing all the things
real?
they accuse our great president of doing.
Well, that's a tactic of communists.
Absolutely.
To do that. That's a tactic that goes back 150 years. And and it's also for people that don't want to go back 150 years and read that. George Orwell kind of satire. His satire does that. You accuse people of what you do because it puts them on the defensive.
Right.
And also you change the meaning of words. So, for example, he'll say, there is no inflation. Prices are just going up.
Okay, wait a minute.
But in Orwell's 1984, the Department of Defense, his War Department, was called the Department of Peace.
Mm-hmm.
So that the idea is if you say it often enough,
exactly,
you can convince people of the opposite. Russian collusion.
Right.
The Russian collusion turns out to be not only false but purchased by Hillary Clinton.
The first and greatest lie that they perpetrated on this country was that you cannot mix religion and politics. And you shouldn't get involved in politics if you believe in God. And that, they don't go together. Well, the Bible says that God is over the nations, but how can he be over the nations when we as Christians and Judeo-Christians at that stood back and allowed the devil to start running the country because we thought it was nasty and dirty and we shouldn't get involved in politics.
Yeah,
So
I don't,
we let the devil come in and start running the country.
no, I agree with you that the major downfall has been taking God
Out.
of America
Absolutely.
and creating this impression that there's something wrong about praying or discussing God or
Right.
all the Constitution says about religion is you can't have an established religion.
Exactly.
And then it goes on to say the government can't interfere with the free exercise of
Amen.
religion, but they ignore that.
Oh, absolutely.
So,
But what else
we
do they
can't,
ignore?
we have never had an established religion. I mean,
Right.
basically the choice was, were we going to have the Church of England as the established Church of America or not?
Right.
And we decided we don't want that.
Nope.
And so therefore they said, you can't have an established religion. But then they made sure to say, you have the right to practice your religion and the government can't interfere in it.
Right.
And all the government does now is interfere in it. Right.
But they interfere in everything, don't they? What don't they interfere in? The thing is if you brainwash people, if you give them the ability to hear over and over again the same thing that is a lie, a bold-faced lie, are they going to believe you? If you are in power and you own all the stations and you're the one that gets to talk to them and you won't let the truth come out. What happened when the people came forward about President Biden's son's laptop? Sure, nobody knew it, right?
Yeah.
They blocked it.
Yeah, it
This
shocked me.
happens every day in this country.
It shocked me.
We have all the answers. We can prove all these people being wrong. We can prove the lies. We can prove the theft. We can prove that.
It's enormously frustrating.
Absolutely.
Since
But yet, can we stop it? No, because why? We have no voice.
No, we can stop it. We can stop it.
We've got to have that voice.
We can stop it by taking this election in 2024
Absolutely.
as life and death.
Absolutely.
I
And,
mean,
and people have to.
It's got to be one. There's no room for error.
No.
And I want to thank you very, very much for coming here. And I believe that the biggest thing that we have to do is bring God back into
Amen.
America. And I think that'll solve a lot of the problems we think can't be solved. Will get solved right away.
Yeah. And look at what's happening in Israel. And look what's happening here with the Jewish people. God is going to call them home.
Mm-hmm.
Is he calling them home now from the United States even? Because it's the end of times?
No.
Or is he waking us up and making us see the truth about how evil evil is?
I think in a way,
so that we change.
The good side of it is he's creating, I think, even more of a bond between Jewish people and Christians.
Yeah.
Because now, when you look at it, they want to kill both of us.
Oh, that's not good.
So we better band together and
Amen.
help each other. Well, thank you very, very much.
God bless you. Keep doing what you're doing.
Take a
and I'll
short
keep doing
break.
what I'm doing.
Yeah, you keep. Oh, we need it badly. Absolutely.
We want to do that.
Thank you.
Go to elainebeck.com and you'll see everything you ever could
That's easy.
possibly know about me.
ElaineBeck.com. Very easy.
God bless you.
Okay. Thank you, Elaine.
Thank you.
To live is on its promise to do good and never forget the sacrifices America's greatest heroes have made for us. Heroes who risked their lives to keep our communities and our country safe. Heroes like United States Marine Corps Captain and pilot John Jeremy Sachs. Captain Sachs sustained fatal injuries when his military aircraft crashed during training, killing him and 5 other service members. He's remembered by loved ones as courageous, brilliant, and devoted to his career, family, and friends. John is survived by his wife, Amber, who gave birth to their second daughter 3 months after his death. Tunnel Towers paid the mortgage on the family home for Amber and their 2 daughters. The foundation has helped over 1,000 military and first responder families navigate the worst of times by removing the burden of a mortgage payment. Our nation's heroes and their families need your help now more than ever. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at T2T.org. T2T.org. That's T, the number 2T.org. T2T.org. Please donate now.
And we're back. Welcome back.
Welcome back to America's Mayor Live. And I thought I'd give you a little rundown of what happened in court today because my son Andrew was there for the entire session. I had him on my radio show breaking down what happened. And I've also gotten some reports now. I mean, this is now the second witness of their Pecker was their first witness. And Pecker said that the whole purpose of the payment was not political at all. It was completely business. Trump was a major celebrity, probably one of the 2 or 3 hottest celebrities in the world at the time. If he isn't right now, he was then also. Had been for quite some time because of The Apprentice, which was the #1 show on television. And he was in the practice of buying up stories. He said he did it so often, he couldn't remember how often, but he did it for Schwarzenegger. He did it for who the heck else? He had a couple of Tiger Woods. And he would buy up stories that might be harmful. And as his lawyer said, his lawyer Davidson, who testified today, it was a little short of extortion. It was friendly extortion. So then they could get lots of inside information about The Apprentice, or about the state of California, or about golf. In the case of Woods, they got him to do a whole thing on health. So this idea that they've morphed this into a political motive is completely contradicted by their own witness. Now, I don't know. I can't really defend him because I don't know what they're charging him with, which it sounds absurd, right? So the charge is a 2-part charge. Charge number 1 is that he committed a misdemeanor because his accountant put in the records of his book, of his company, that these payments were for legal expenses or legal fees, and that's false. They were actually hush money payments. The witness today completely blew that apart. The witness today was Stormy Daniels' lawyer who negotiated. He said he never met Trump. So the first time he was in the same room as Trump was today. He had no dealings at all with Trump. His dealings were through Cohen, so everything he knows is through Cohen. Eventually, he just stopped dealing with Cohen. This is his words. It's the state witness, because he's a serial liar. Well, he's going to be one of their next witnesses, a serial liar. I don't know how you put a serial liar on the witness stand. You do it when you're a corrupt prosecutor. And then he said that the payments were not hush money payments at all. They were consideration in a contract. We settled the case, and that was the consideration, which makes the statement, a legal payment, totally accurate. So we don't even get off square one here. We don't even have a misdemeanor false statement, if that's true. But that's their witness. He says it wasn't a hush money payment. He says it was a legal payment, a consideration for a contract. Now, even if it was whatever you call a hush money payment, it was for a legal purpose. She was going to keep quiet. He was going to keep quiet. That's called the non-disclosure agreement. Oh gosh, if I told you there were 1 million of those in New York, I'm probably not exaggerating. Certainly hundreds of thousands. Non-disclosure agreements done all the time. There's absolutely nothing illegal about them. This man alone probably did 1,000, 2,000. Nobody else ever got prosecuted for that before, because it's not a crime. And remember, the crime is a minor crime, misdemeanor. The false statement is he described it as a legal payment. it is, among other things, a legal payment. It's a payment for a legal obligation that you've created. So in order to convict somebody of a false statement, you've got to prove that it is literally and figuratively untrue. Can't be any ambiguity about it being untrue. And since he had about this much space to put it in, legal payment, perfectly good description. Then that doesn't really matter because all of that, what I just told you, is barred by the statute of limitations that happened so long ago. And it's only a misdemeanor for which I don't think anybody's ever gone to jail. So they want to make it more serious. And they say he did it in order to effectuate a felony. We think that the felony is that this was an illegal campaign contribution. What was an illegal campaign contribution? The fact that Pecker paid for this, the fact that he paid for this, the fact that she was paid to not say this. The reality is that this is exactly the theory they had in the Edwards case. Edwards was acquitted. The Justice Department takes the view that this is not an illegal campaign contribution. The Justice Department turned this case down under federal law. The U.S. attorney turned the case down under federal law. And Bragg's predecessor turned the case down as a stupid case. And Bragg turned it down as a case until two of his assistants left his office and wrote a book about how crooked he is or how stupid he is or whatever. And either that intimidated him to take another look at it, or more likely the Democratic Party grabbed him and said, Biden wants this. So he completely changed his theory, which is probably not hard, because I don't think he would understand it anyway, and prosecuted him. But now, just wait a second. Didn't I just say that the felony was a federal crime? He's not a federal prosecutor. He can't prosecute a federal crime. I have no idea why anybody let this case go through. A federal prosecutor can't prosecute a federal crime, even if it's a real federal crime. This is a federal crime that the federal prosecutor turned down and said isn't a crime. Do you realize how insane this is? Just to persecute him, just to prosecute him. Do you know what damage this is doing to the reputation of New York? And it deserves it, because New York is totally crooked. The four boroughs, completely crooked. You might as well be living in a communist dictatorship. It's a democratic dictatorship. The judges are there on the sufferance of the Democratic bosses. They don't resemble anything you would think of as a judge, particularly in a political case. They'll do whatever they have to do, prostitute themselves any way they have to keep their measly little jobs. And I guess they get a real high out of the fact that when they walk in a room, people stand up. Yes, Your Honor. No, Your Honor. Yes, Your Honor. No, Your Honor. And then the Democratic boss calls up and says, I want you to fix the case. And then they do what the boss says. You know, if you look at Engeron, he's got that law clerk sitting on his lap. First of all, I've never seen that before, a law clerk sitting up next to the judge like that. But, you know, the reason for that is she's keeping watch over him, like an agent, like the communists do, where they have agents in businesses to make sure the business functions for the purpose of helping the communist state. She's there to make sure that he functions for the Democrat Party. Because if you look at her background, she's been a member of so many different Democratic clubs. She contributes to them. She works all night, giving out subpoenas and getting signatures. And the reality is she's a political operative. And then the other judge, his daughter, who has the audacity to write a gag order that President Trump can't criticize her. She's not a 5-year-old. She's an adult woman making hundreds of thousands of dollars as a political oppo research activist. She's making a fortune off this. And she's making a fortune over attacking him, but he can't answer. That's really convenient. Huh? She can write anything she wants about him. If he answers, he goes to jail. That's America? You've got to be kidding. So Davidson leaves the witness stand today and says it wasn't a hush money payment. And it was a completely appropriate business transaction. And the description of it is perfectly accurate. In most of America at this point, the judge would be saying things like, Mr. Prosecutor, if you're not going to present any evidence of a crime, I'm just going to dismiss this case. I mean, we've gone a week now, and the first one tells us it wasn't political, it was business. And the second one tells us that your argument that it's a false statement isn't true. You got a witness that supports your case. Oh, yeah, I have Michael Cohen coming, and he'll say anything I want him to. And he will.
Yeah.
Michael Cohen will say anything the guy wants. And judging by the nature of the cross-examination, when they get finished with him, I don't think you, if you listen to it closely, I don't think you've probably encountered a bigger liar than Michael Cohen. I mean, how about this? I think it would be impossible for him to tell the truth. I think his mind is so screwed up. I think it would be completely impossible for him to actually tell the truth. I'll leave you with one example that is mind-blowing. When he appeared before the congressional committee, this is after he was prosecuted, after the U.S. Attorney's Office threw him out because he's a pathological liar. The U.S. Attorney's Office will not use him as a witness because he's a pathological liar. After all that, he appears before Benny Thompson, who's, who's a hack Democrat politician. And Benny Thompson gives a big lecture about nobody's going to commit perjury. And if you commit perjury, you're going to be hung up and all this other stuff. He sort of like to say that, well, now finally Cohen has gone on the side of the angels and he's going to tell the truth. Well, he lied so often, it's ridiculous, but I'm going to give you the best one. So I'm sitting there, I'm representing the president at the time, and I'm taking notes. And the question is, well, weren't you angry at the president because you didn't get a job in the White House? To which he said, I never wanted a job in the White House. I wouldn't take a job in that White House. I mean, you never asked for a job in the White House. I never asked for a job in the White House. I wouldn't. All of a sudden, I wake up from falling asleep because it was so boring. And I say to myself, didn't he ask me to tell the president to hire him? I think I remember that. Didn't he do it so often that he was a pain in the you-know-what? And don't I remember numerous people calling me, telling me, get this guy off my back, including was either Eric or Donald Trump. So I said, oh my goodness, this is terrific. I'm going to line them all up. And when we get to cross-examine him, I'm going to call them all as witnesses to say he lied about that. And I was making out a list. I'm writing out a list. I got up to about 13 or 14 people. I even got to calling one or two. And then all of a sudden, I got a flash. And I remember that 2 days after the election, he was on Chris Cuomo's show. And on the show, he goes into great detail about the job he wanted in the administration. He wanted to be chief of staff. So that night, we had it all ready. There you see him say on video, I never asked for a job in the White House. And then he's on with Chris Cuomo. I want to be chief of staff, and I think I will be chief of staff. And Chris Cuomo's looking at him like, would Trump be stupid enough to make you chief of staff? Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful, Michael. You're going to be chief of staff? Yes. I requested the job, and I was told I'd be chief of staff. Complete contradiction of what he said under oath. Now, let's go back to Benny Thompson and see how much integrity he has. He said if he lied, he was going to prosecute him. They haven't done anything except keep calling him as a witness and try to hide all his lies. But that's not going to happen when he comes on trial. When he comes out on trial, I mean, it could take days to go through all the lies that he's told. 2 of his lawyers want to testify against him.
Yeah.
And this particular guy, the state witness said, I had to stop dealing with him because he lied so much.
Couldn't work.
I don't think I've ever seen that in a case.
He's a big liar.
The witness hasn't even shown up yet, and he's being impeached by their other witnesses.
They haven't even called yet that can corrupt.
But I don't know why we're smiling. This is a terrible blow to American justice. They have taken one of our most precious assets, our system of justice, and they've ruined it. This is not a country that you could say any longer has, one of the great legal systems. In fact, we've got one of the worst. And when they say it's a 2-tiered system, it's really a euphemism. It's like that lawfare thing. That's another euphemism. Lawfare isn't lawfare. It's total straight out and out corruption. What they're doing to me, what they're doing to Trump, what they're doing to Navarro, what they're doing to all these people is straight out and out corruption. And it's being done because they're afraid they're going to be exposed as the major lifetime crooks that they are. And I just fear, what's the next step? And we got to keep ahead of it because this isn't working. I mean, they got 2 more prosecutions now in Arizona and Michigan. I mean, if they keep it up, they keep prosecuting him, he'll get elected by acclamation. Right. I mean, the American people have kind of gotten it. So they're going to try something else. And we're going to work really, really hard to try to figure out what they're going to do before they do it. And so we'll be talking about that tomorrow night. So I want to thank you very, very much for listening in. We've had a terrific time with our guests.
We have a great live audience, which we haven't shown, but we have a great live audience.
And we have a little doggy there.
Other shoulder.
But we
in honor of Cricket. Other shoulder.
Are we going to have like a funeral for Cricket?
Well, I didn't even suggest that, but
I don't think we should. With this little doggy here, we shouldn't invite Christine Nome as a guest.
Well, we've confirmed that she's not on Palm Beach. To our understanding,
the dogs are safe.
Dogs are safe, but we're using a fake one just in case. Just in case we're using a fake one.
I feel bad for her. I'm sure that it's a question of culture and whatever, but it was a puppy. If she's going to kill a dog, it should be some kind of mean, vicious, terrible dog trying to kill people.
Poor Cricket.
There's more to it than that. Was it really?
There may be some more to the story.
Was it
Let us know.
A really bad puppy? A really bad puppy?
Yeah. We'll discuss further tomorrow night. God.
Well, thank you very, very much for listening in, and say a prayer for the people. This is Prayer Day, National Prayer Day. So say a prayer for the people of Israel. They're really getting pushed very, very hard.
Yes.
And also say a prayer for us too. We sure need it.
Yeah.
So God bless America, and we'll see you tomorrow. Bear the principle of common sense and rational discussion to the issues of our day. America was created at a time of great turmoil, tremendous disagreements, anger, hatred. It was a book written in 1776 that guided much of the discipline of thinking that brought to us the discovery of our freedoms, of our God-given freedoms. It was Thomas Paine's Common Sense, written in 1776, one of the first American bestsellers, in which Thomas Paine explained, by rational principles, the reason why these small colonies felt the necessity to separate from the Kingdom of Great Britain and the King of England. He explained their inherent desire for liberty, for freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, the ability to select the people who govern them. And he explained it in ways that were understandable to all the people, not just the elite. Because the desire for freedom is universal. The desire for freedom adheres in the human mind, and it is part of the human soul. This is exactly the time we should consult our history. Look at what we've done in the past and see if we can't use it to help us now. We understand that our founders created the greatest country in the history of the world. the greatest democracy, the freest country, a country that has taken more people out of poverty than any country ever. All of us are so fortunate to be Americans. But a great deal of the reason for America's constant ability to self-improve is because we're able to reason, we're able to talk, we're able to analyze,